Technically, we can do that. What I can do is I can just say ID for default it is 1, and later on whenever I'm creating, I will just like ID plus equals to 1, something like that I can do, you know. But we don't want to manage these numbers by ourselves. We want the database to do its thing. Okay. It will be very messy if you try to keep track of it. Who is number 55? Who is number 56? Instead, what do? We let the database handle these IDs. We want the database to automatically assign the next available number, which can be 1, 2, 3, or so on. This process is called as auto incrementing. If you might have created databases from scratch, if you might have created tables from scratch, you might have used this auto increment, this kind of validation you put on your column. So whenever you create a primary key, you specify that this is an auto increment column. That means what? I will not, from my end, I will not pass the ID. I will only pass the necessary information like this author, price, and all. Why? Because I don't need to worry about this unique ID. ID must be unique. That is the reason it is a primary key. That is a basics of your database. That every primary key must be unique, right? Because we don't want to do that, we use the process called as auto incrementing, and same thing is happening here. Okay, this will create a logic for our Python program. So what are we doing? Why are we passing this optional as none? We don't want it to be null. Can a primary key be null? No, it is going against the database rules. Primary key cannot be null. So why are we passing this optional null, right? We defined our class saying that this is, yeah, this is an integer, this is an ID. But when we create a new student, when we create a new book in Python, before we send it to the database, it will not have an ID number yet. Okay. When we're sending it from here, right, it does not have an ID number yet. If we force Python to expect an integer, like I told you, if you explicitly mention it is 1, 2, 3, 4, the code will crash because we don't have a number to give it yet. So that is the reason in our model, we define the primary key ID as like this: optional, null, default equals to null. Okay. So we are telling that this field, it can be an integer. It might be an integer. So you might have heard about that. I'm not sure if you have heard about it. It's called as this Schrodinger's cat principle. Okay. It creates like a situation where it could be also none. So it can be 1 or 0, something like that. So what this default equals to none, this will allow us to create a new book, okay, which can have any name like this Great Gatsby. Okay, it will allow us to create this book without causing an error. Okay, Python will say that it does not have an ID yet, so I will just mark it as none for now. Okay, and when I try to do the commit, then the database will automatically add the ID for that. So till this process, the ID for this particular book is still none. It is null. But as soon as I try to commit it, the database will automatically add that. Why will it automatically add that? Because we have defined this as a primary key. Okay. So when we open a session, we add the book or we add the student, we do the commit. So at this exact moment when we do a commit, the database, it catches the data, it saves it, and then it assigns the ID to it as well. However, there is one catch. The database does not automatically tell Python about this ID. It's a one-way conversation. Python does not know what is the ID, but as soon as Python gives it to the database, then the database knows. Database will not tell Python. It is a one-way conversation. What is the ID? Okay. So let's say back to this because this is my rough. So let's say that if I try to print, okay, let's say I try to print student one. Okay, here, what will happen? Let's just see. I will do a couple of things. Let's say student one. So I'll just pass the entire object student one, and I will do a couple of more things. I will pass the name and the ID as well. Student one ID. So I'll say student one dot ID. And remember, this is after the adding part. Name, student one dot name. Okay, so I'm basically before committing, I am printing these details. Any error in my code? I don't think so. I think this was the we'll delete this. So we'll start from fresh. So now let's run this. Clear this. So pretty much standard created these things. And I think I commented this, is it? I have commented this. It creates the tables and the data. Now you can see first I passed the entire object. Okay, student one. So I can see anything student one. Okay, so you can see till here name is given, ID, age is given. What is ID? ID is none here. Okay, student one dot ID none. Name is there, age is there, but ID it's not there. It is assigned as none. ID is our primary key. So what will we do here? Let's do one thing. Let's print it after commit. Okay, if I try to print it after the commit, like I told you that when does the ID is assigned? When we commit, the ID is assigned, right? So I will do one thing. I will print it before this and I will print it after this as well. So let's see what is the difference between this. You can see this, it is getting as null. Student one, this is before this, it has been inserted into that, right? Before the commit process, right? It is giving as null, but after also that student is giving as null. The student ID it is fetching, but the student it is still as null. So what we will do, how do we fix this? We want Python to also get the information, what is the ID. So we force Python to update its notes. Okay, so what we will do is they will refresh. There's something called as a refresh. Here you see, I have added the hero, committed it, and after that we are doing the refresh. Why are we doing this? Because when we do the commit, no, it will assign the ID. But our Python, it still doesn't know what that ID is yet. So how do we get that ID? We have to refresh that particular instance. Okay, think of it like hitting the reload button on your web browser, right? So when you run this refresh command, SQL model, it will effectively ask the database that I have this hero object. Can you give me the most current data of that you have, right? So the database, it will reply with the new data, including the new ID that it has just generated. Okay, so let's do that. Let's hit the refresh session, refresh, comment this to, and I pass the student. So you can see previously the student was not being displayed. Okay, what's this? Again, I'll keep this. I'll just print the student one and I will refresh it and then I'll print it. Okay. Now what is happening here? You can see before, this is before. Name is equals to Ghana, age is 20, ID is none. Till here, it has not been committed. Then the commit happens. The commit has happened. Okay, commit begin. All of that commit has happened. Now I have done a refresh. Okay, after I have done the refresh, now you'll be able to see the ID is getting populated. What if I don't do the refresh? That ID will not be shown. Okay, so I will not spend more time in this. I just want to I wanted to make you understand that the standard workflow should be something like this. First, you create the object. Okay, this object will have ID none. Then you add it to the session. Then you commit the changes. As soon as you commit the changes, what will happen? The database will generate the ID. And if and only if you refresh the object, then only the database will send back the ID back to Python. If you don't need the ID immediately, for example, if you're just saving data and you're just moving on, you can skip this refresh step. But if you need to show the user, like, yeah, this is the ID, it has been inserted, this is the data. Let's say if you want to print like a receipt number, then you must call this refresh. Got it? So that was the thing. That's how you do. Create the object, add it to the session, commit it, ID will be generated. Then you hit the refresh and then you will be able to get the ID. Okay. So same thing. Now you have to refresh the Hobbit object and print the ID of the Hobbit. This two tasks. This is the increment of that. You can experiment around with it, but continue this lab. These two steps you need to do. Although it is just 2 lines of code, but you need to do on your own. In the refresh, you have to use the session. Again, that should be inside the with block. Session dot refresh, pass the object, and then you'll be able to print the ID. Okay, you can print something like student.id, comma, student.name. Like this way, you can print anything. So do this, but for the book database that we're doing. Give me a thumbs up if you're done. If you want, you can take a couple of more minutes. You can experiment around it, print the ID before, refresh button. Okay, done, already done. 2 lines of code. Yeah, this validation is there. Simple, just run your script, check your data is getting populated in DB browser or not. So open the database using the DB browser. You should see 3 rows. This is pretty standard. I hope you're doing this along with me. Certain mistakes and best practices. Mistakes to avoid, best practices to follow. Mistake is do not forget to add the session.commit. This is like hitting the buy button in your Amazon, right? If you just keep it in the cart, it will never arrive on your doorstep, right? You have to hit the buy button, you have to do the payment, and only then it will arrive. The session.commit, if you hit, the data will remain as it is in memory. When the session gets over, that's it. It will not be saved into your database. Okay. Next mistake, if you try to access the ID before the refresh, session.refresh, you will get the ID as none. Okay, that is called as stale data sometimes. Okay, and practice use with block for the session engine. So this creates a context manager. It will not waste your resources. And it is a safe way, it is a best practice to follow. Got it? Okay. So far we have learned how to create tables, how to create rows as well, right? How to insert the data into the database. We have successfully done that. Now we need to learn how to get it out. Okay. So you might have heard about the CRUD, right? CRUD, CRUD. So this part is the read part. This is basically the refresh thing that we just did. Yeah. This is called as the stale object. If you refresh that, then you will get the ID. When you commit, the data is sent to the database, then the database generates the ID. The Python object variable in RAM does not automatically know about this change. That is the reason it is called as stale. So how do you get it fresh? You do the refresh, right? So that is the logic of automatic IDs. Next, we move on to the R part in your CRUD, right? R stands for read. So in SQL, how do we do that? If we want to read something, how do I do that? I just have to write select star from books, right? And I'll get the data right here. Okay. So in SQL, it is done using the select command. In SQL model, we have a special function that does exactly the same thing, but it will do it in a way that it keeps our Python code clean and it will keep it easier to read. Okay. So to get started, we need to import a new tool. Okay. Now we have imported what else? Let's see. We have imported create engine, which is the main important thing. Field to give the metadata, like is it a primary key? If you want to give a default value. SQL model, this is the main class. This it has the metadata and other functions, right? Then we created the session. So we have one more special function that does exactly the same thing as a select command, right? So we need to import the select function. Excuse me for a minute. Okay, sorry about that. So yeah, we need to import a function called as select. Okay, what is the syntax? You can see this is the syntax for your select. Zoom that in. I want you to pay the close attention to the parenthesis. Okay, we are passing the class itself. You can see, which is the blueprint. It is not a specific value. So it is not a value like the student one, student two. We are actually passing the complete blueprint, the class, right? So we're effectively telling the system that I want you to go to the table which is associated with this class and get me everything. Okay, so it is equivalent to something like this: select star from books. Okay, so this particular statement means what? Select star from hero. That's it. That's what it means when you write something like this. Okay, now here is one point of confusion. So you can see this is converting it to something like this: select star from hero. When we try to do the execution, the system is just a definition. The statement that we wrote, right? It is just a definition. To run it, we need to pass it to the session. Okay, and that session will execute it. So if you just write this statement, no, select hero, it will not actually talk to the database yet. It will just define the question we want to ask. So what is the question? The question here is, what is the data in hero? But have we asked that question yet to the database? No, we have not asked that question yet. So to ask this question to our database, we again need our session. Okay, so we will run this command session.exec, and then we pass the statement inside it. Exec stands for execute. Okay, we are telling the session, take this question that I have given you or the statement that I have given you. Okay, send it to the engine and then run it against the database and bring me back my answers. Okay, so you can put a loop through this, through results, like a standard list. So if you want to iterate through the rows, you again create a new variable. Okay, like a results variable. It is a special object that will contain all the rows found in the database. And the best part is that SQL model, it converts these database rows back into Python objects for us. And you can loop through them like a normal list. Enough talking, let's get actually into it. So what I will do is, again, I will just create a new function. We call this as uh, get students. Okay. I can just comment out these two things, but I don't need them now. Okay, and then inside this, like I told you, first I need a session. So with session, like I told you, we can create multiple sessions as session. Okay. So now what do we need to do? As per our things, we need to write a statement for it. That statement will ask the question, and then we will use the execute to actually ask the question back to the database. So I'll go back to this. I will write statement. This is just a variable. This can be anything. And then inside this is the important part. Hope you're able to see. So I will write select. Firstly, make sure you import this select from SQL model. And then here I will pass the entire class. So select students. Now the question has been defined. What do I want to select? I want to select everything, select star from students. Now, how do I get the actual rows? Right? How do you deliver this question to the database? So then you have to use something like session.exec it will execute this statement. Okay, and then you can actually, statement spelling is wrong. Okay, then you can actually put this inside like a results. Okay, and then I can iterate through this. Before going into that, let's just see what it is giving us now. So two simple things: statement equals to select students. This you can directly put inside this as well, not an issue. Okay, so let's see what this is giving us for now. I need to call this get students. Okay, that is happening because it is not currently. So this. So you can see it is pretty much the same thing. Select will give us this select star from. Okay, we have to write that at the top. Then we wrote the exec session.exec. Now that we have the select statement, we can execute it with the session. Okay, so the session will tell go ahead, use the engine, and then execute that select statement in the database and bring back the results to me. Okay, now results is an iterable. I have not printed it as of now. So you can see it is actually getting me the memory location where that is stored. Why? Because that is an object. Whatever I'm trying to print here, this is an object and it is an iterable object. That means what? There are multiple rows inside this. So what I will do is I will actually iterate over this object. If I'm printing it, it's giving me the memory location. So instead of this print, I will assign it to a variable, let's say results. And now this results has become a list. This results is a list, the number of rows that are present. So for this, I will say for student, like any other iterable, for student in this results, what do I need to do? I need to print each student. So print student. Look at this. What has been done? So if I directly printed this, it is giving me the memory location. That confirms what? That this is it returns an object. And let me tell you, it is an iterable object. So how do you iterate over a list? You write a for loop, right? And then you just simply print it. Now, if you see, let's see what the result it gives us. Not saved it. Now you can see it is actually returning me each and every row. We are able to iterate through the results. So that confirms what I have told you, that first, what do you need to do? You need to ask the question. Question I have asked here. Okay. Then you need to define the question. Then you need to ask the question. How do you ask the question to the database? Session.exec. Okay. Then it returns an iterable object. That iterable object, if you iterate over it and print the results, it will give you the actual results that there are. Got it? So because we defined our models with types, right? You can see we have the types. So your code editor will know exactly what attributes this student has. Okay. So let's say instead of just student, if I just say student.id, comma, student dot name, let's say I only want the name and the ID, I don't want the age. Okay. So if I give this attributes, and if I print it, you will see it has returned me only the IDs and the names. It has not returned me the age. So what is happening? I hope you're trying to understand that this is the syntax of Python. This is how you access an object. This is not how you play around with SQL, right? But what has SQL model done? It has converted those rows into Python objects for us. Okay. This is the power of your SQL model. It helps you write code faster and it reduces the number of errors. Since we have this echo equals to true, that is the reason we are able to see all of this, what is actually happening. You can see it is writing the actual boilerplate code, right? It wrote all the boring SQL boilerplate code for you. It will map the results back into Python classes and you will be able to access it. It will give you a clean list that you can work with. Okay. So how do you read the data? Very simple workflow. Number one, import the select. Then define your query. How do you define your query? Write a statement, select which table you need to select. Execute this query using the session.exec and then loop through the results to use your data. Got it? This is how we do it. You can see this is another example. Create hero. So how to read all the rows? Statement, results.exec, and then print the ID, the name. Okay. Now once again, another lab for you. Same thing we will do. I need you to create a new function, add new book, create a new book instance, print the book ID, add and commit, refresh the book, and then run the function and verify what is the data that you have. Or you can go along with this one. It's a continuation. First do this part, and then we can continue to this lab. As soon as you're done, put a message in the chat that you're done, and then I will show you the lab 2, which is a continuation of this. This is pretty standard. This you have already done. Once again, I needed to repeat it, and then we'll go for the continuation of this. Then share the code in the chat, Sharon. Okay, superb, Sharon. That's right. So for those who have completed, you can move on to this next task. In this, you have to use the newly learned select statement. Remember, the process is pretty standard. First, you import the select, then you define the query using the statement, then you execute using this exec, all right? And then you loop through your data. Come on, guys, I need some answers from someone else as well. Are you guys understanding or no? Do you want me to slow down? Do you want me to speed up? Okay, so for this task, I want Sheetal to share her screen and show me the solution for this. Sheetal, once you're done with this, you can share your screen. 'Verify' means you just need to check if this is visible or not. That's it. This one that you created, no, Dune, to check if that is visible or not. That's it. Repeating in the sense, is it are multiple data getting inserted, Hemant? Sixth means what, Charan? That first you need to do this task. You need to make sure it is inserted, then you need to get the result. Yes, Hemant, there is another complex thing you need to do. You just need to check. You need to write a check before it. We will do that later. So how you do is you have to write one check that if that is present, then you do not insert that. If it is not existing, then you insert this. Something like that. It has to be done like a 4 or 5 lines changes there that we can do. So what I am doing, you can just follow that. I'll just delete the database file. This is not a good practice, but just for teaching purposes, I'm doing. You just delete this because it is a simple file, right? Right? Just delete it and then you run the same thing. So it will start from scratch. It's like you're doing it for the first time. Or simply you can, comment out. You can create functions that you can comment out the unneeded ones so that it will not insert again and again. Couple of things you can do to solve that. Statement, you write the query. Okay, you define your query. This is the definition, and then you execute it using the exec session dot exec, right? And then you loop through the results because that results what you will get, it is an iterable object. Okay. So what are some best practices and mistakes that you need to avoid? Mistake, yeah, you do not give the variable here. So whenever you are selecting something, like here you're selecting, do not give this student one, student two, do not give this. You have to give the actual table name, the actual class name. This is one mistake that people do, that you need to make sure that you give the class name instead of the variable that you have created or instead of the row that you have created. Then trying to read outside the width block. Results are often streamed. If you try to access the results items after the session block, then the connection is closed and you will not get the results. It will result in an error. Okay, so convert results to a list inside the block if you need to use them later in your piece of code. Okay, this is how you can do that. Heroes equals to list of session.exec of statement. This is how you convert the result into a list, and then you can reuse that piece of thing in anywhere in your code. So like I told you, this will grab all the columns. If you have a huge table, so this is fine for learning, but it is expensive in production. Okay, so next, let's look at how do we actually filter the data with the where clauses. So what we will do is we will stop here for today. And if you have any questions, you can ask me now. And Sheetal, you can share the response in the chat. I'm still waiting for that response. Okay, something you have shared. Okay, looks correct. So that's it for today, everyone. Just to give you a quick recap that what we have done today is we started with the automatic IDs, right? How the automatic IDs are generated. And right, we looked at this session, which is one of the important thing. The shopping cart analogy, if you remember this, is very easy to understand. And then we looked at how do you add your data into your database. You have to use session.add, session.commit, right? And after you do that, you did some exercises. What are some mistakes? Do not forget to commit. And if you want to access the ID, you need to use session.refresh and always use the with block. If you use the with block, it will save you some memory. Then we went into the IDs. What are the automatic IDs? Correct? How to refresh the data? What is a stale object? How to read the data? It's the select statement. And how to execute the query, along with how do you fetch the row-wise result. It gives an iterable object. So we have done all of this. I hope you have understood. And if you have any questions, I will take any questions for now. Otherwise, we can end with this session. Are you guys understanding? Give me a thumbs up if you are. Okay. Lots of people left already. At least they say, give me a thumbs up in the camera. I can see you guys. Okay, very good. If I'm going fast, if I'm going slow, you can let me know. You can use your mic. Mic is there. Otherwise, you can put in the chat. I read the chat occasionally. Yeah, that's it from my end. Thank you all very much. And I hope you